This abomination here is known as Firefighter for the Atari 2600. And wow. All you're doing in this game, you're running around trying to put a fire out of this house trying to save this guy. But there's a few main problems with this game. One is that it's way too easy. I mean, look, the game's barely started and the fire's almost out. But look good, it's running right in there. Get the hell out of there, you idiot. Oh, the fire's all gone. And the guy's just running around the bottom of the screen. I'm controlling the ladder, running around, waiting for something to happen. What is supposed to happen here? Yeah, I'm trying to rescue the guy, but he's not moving from that part of the screen. I mean, honestly, who thought this was a good idea for a game? Obviously, one company decided to release and publish this piece of crap. It gets even better. This time I'm purposely going to let the flames try and climb for a bit. Just so I can get the guy and get out. If you play this game, you'll realize there's no real challenge in the game. Seriously, I rescue the guy. Game over. Now, I know you really can't hear the music well for this particular one, but you're not missing anything, trust me. I mean, this game is so boring and monotonous. This is just terrible, guys. See, I'm letting, and you really, the guy you're trying to save is never in any danger. The fire can climb as much as you can climb very high, and he'll still just be running around, and he'll get out of the building. So basically, why the hell is the firefighter there in the first place if the guy can just escape himself? I mean, this is probably on the record for probably the easiest game ever. Well, okay, maybe not the easiest game ever, but probably one of the easiest and probably one of the most boring and monotonous. And for difficulty, it changes how big the building is. Not that makes a difference whatsoever. Here, I'm going to try the short building. Now he's definitely not in danger here. See, now he's up on the roof. How are you supposed to get him now? In all honesty, how are you supposed to get him when he's up on the roof? I mean, honestly. Now let's put out the fire and get away from this crap, from this excuse for a game. Now let's see if I can save the guy. You know what? I'm done with this. Here is the next abomination on this list. Space Jockey. I mean, look at this mess. You're fighting the same free enemy. I mean, the graphics are, well, it's an Atari game. Graphics are nothing to speak of. But look at this game. You're playing as some sort of alien saucer thing, and you're playing against all these different Earth vehicles like tanks, planes, and helicopters, and hot air balloons. Well, there's no airplane, and whatever the hell that thing is. If you haven't noticed by now, you'll probably notice why this game sucks. It's so boring and monotonous, you'll probably fall asleep while playing this game. I mean, it's using the same three enemies, or same group of 3 or 4 groups of enemies, over and over and over again. I mean, honestly, could the makers of this game think of anything worse? I mean, who's got to take inspiration of making this game? The free Mythicon games that were released around the same time as this? Oh, do you want to know? And do you want to know what company released this horrendous game? A company called US Games, which at the time was a division of Quaker Oats. That's right, you heard me right. The oatmeal company Quaker Oats decided to make video games for Atari back in the early '80s, which shows the lack of quality control that Atari had over their console. Which is probably which helped lead to the crash of '83. All these low quality games that everyone was making on their console. I mean, look at this. I think a little kid could probably make something better than this in Game Maker or something like that. And that's pretty bad. I mean, I've seen some horrendous Game Maker games and games made and some really bad modern games. But really, when it comes to terrible games, to the sheer amount of terrible games, the Atari takes the cake. I mean, honestly. On to the next game. The rest of this video will be covering the free, less than stellar games in the Swordquest series. Now, Swordquest was a series of games that was released between 1982 and 1983. The point of it that there was originally supposed to be 4 games made: Earthworld, Fireworld, Waterworld, and Airworld. There's supposed to be this really big contest for it, with these fancy prizes for each of them. I think a sword, a chalice, at one point. There's supposed to be a separate contest for each one. Then Atari ran into problems. One of the problems was that the 4th game was never made, and some of the prizes they weren't able to dish out because they sort of ran low on money after their less than exciting 1982 year, with all the really terrible games that were released, and there were really poor choices of the counter chickens before they hatched, with both Pac-Man and E.T. Not to mention, they probably lost some money based off of the other crap that came out in 1982 or 1983. And here's proof of that right here. If you look up the dates of all the games that are in my list, including ones that I've not yet covered, you're going to find that 18 out of 25 were released between 1982 and 1983. Now let's see. Let's look at the Swordquest title screen. See? That's pretty nice. This is probably one of the best title screens on the Atari. Now, is the game any good? You'll probably want to play all 4, right? Look screen now. Do you want to play this for 10? Do you want to play these at all? I mean, look at this. It's the same screen over and over again with some slight changes in color. With the guy, well, the guy looks pretty nice with human figure every time. This game is confusing as all hell, and you have no idea what you're supposed to do, or what you're supposed to do, or where you're supposed to go. Yeah, and I think the little animals on each of the screens are supposed to be the zodiac creatures or something. Well, because it's sort of Greek themed. I mean, if you don't have the manuals for these games, you're screwed. Oh look, one of the puzzles, which looks an awful lot like Frogger, except not nearly as fun. Frogger is a lot of fun. This is not. And this is also far more frustrating. Try getting up to that door. Good luck. I mean, seriously. Let's see, I'm doing good, ah, crap. Now, see, even you have to start all the way back from the beginning of the puzzle. I mean, what a terrible puzzle. It's a good concept, but its execution was terrible. And I mean really terrible. Now back to the screen, looking through, getting more stuff. Now what's next? Let's see. Oh, 16.4. I think that's probably page 16 in the comic books in panel 4. Because you see, all these games came with a comic book, which was meant to go with the game. And well, the comic books are pretty good and they could have functioned on their own. These games are really not necessary. See, they're Gemini twins. I remember them being in the comic book. If anything, if you can find those, get them. They're worth reading. And they're also, I mean, well, they are available on the Atari Greatest Hits collection, but I'm not going to do that right now. Oh, it's the same stupid puzzle again. Now, with these games, if you bought these games and you only have the cartridge by itself, or you're playing it on an emulator and you don't have the manual or comics, you're not going to get very far. Not that you would get very far with them. On to the next game. On to the next Swordquest game. Fireworld. Okay, what's up with Fireworld? Earthworld had a nice title screen. Now what? Look at this pathetic excuse for a screen. Now, Fireworld has no title screen for some reason. I mean, Earthworld did, and that was a much better game, and this one isn't much better. I mean, look at this. Okay, interesting puzzle. You're supposed to catch all these guys. Okay, yeah. And what? This is sort of like one of the games I'm going to be reviewing in my series on the best Atari games, but minus the fun of that particular game. And I'm sure a lot of you know what that particular game is. Now this runs into similar puzzle game again. Now this game runs into the same problem that Earthworld did. It has the exact same. I mean, it's very similar in a lot of ways to Earthworld in terms of the same. We have the same screen over and over and over again. Except this abomination is much worse. I mean, honestly. Swordquest Fireworld? More like Swordquest Firewood. That's the only thing this game is good for. That's Firewood. Same thing with all the games on this list. Collect them all and throw them in a fire. They'll be much better. And don't do what they did with E.T. and Pac-Man, bury them in the desert. That's not even terrible enough for these. On to the last game that they made in the Swordquest series, Swordquest Waterworld. See, this is nice little sharks, and just like Fireworld, no title screen. And what's up with that? Earthworld had a very beautiful title screen. It was arguably the only one of any somewhat related quality in the Swordquest series. Okay, now the guy's just white. Then the other guy's is all black, I think, but I mean, really, okay, this is an easy puzzle to get past those guys. Oh, there's the sword in the first one. Now, in this one, I have no idea what the hell I am doing. I mean, and I thought the first two were like that too. Oh, look, it's another Frogger-like puzzle. These guys must have really liked Frogger. Except they couldn't capture what made Frogger so much fun. What made Frogger so much fun were the amount of cars before you get to the river when you have to jump across those things. You have to jump across the logs part right off the bat. I mean, what fun is that? It's also much longer than it was there. Okay, now I'm starting over again. Yada 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 yada. Avoid the sharks or fish or whatever those things are. And let's see how far I can get in this thing today. Same screen again, going past the squids. and see how much longer I can last playing this stupid game. I mean, seriously, how can these games have been considered playable? This game, to fit its name, they should drown this game. You know what the worst part about these games? For the one, even people who want, I mean, the fact that the contest for this game was never held, and that the prizes were never really administered. I mean, I think for the first one they got a smaller prize, and then the others they got like a couple $1,000 check or something. I mean, I can only imagine how angry they were. And they had to play through these pieces of crap. They're probably furious beyond words. Now, how did you enjoy those pathetic excuses for games? Now, would you believe me if I said that the Swordquest games were supposed to be sequels to the, or originally supposed to be sequels to the hit adventure games? Thank goodness they didn't stick to that. Now, this means there's just one more video left in my series on the worst Atari games ever made, followed by my series on which ones I think are the best. Now, for the final video for the worst ones, when I get to number 1 in that list, that's actually going to be the game I consider to be the worst game to ever be put on the Atari 2600. And probably one of the worst games ever made, period. Well, until next time, guys.